Hey, it's Mike, and in this video I want to talk about your limiting beliefs, how they might be holding you back, and how you can change your life just by changing your limiting beliefs. The truth about who you are. What you believe about yourself is true, because when you believe something about yourself, you're going to act in a certain way that reinforces that belief that you have about yourself. And when you act in a certain way that reinforces that belief about yourself, that belief gets stronger. And so it creates this self-reinforcing loop that's hard to break out of. So it's useful to understand that you get caught in this loop. And this loop just keeps perpetuating itself over and over again. But you're not fully responsible for what you believe. A lot of what you believe is brought to you based on the conditioning that you're exposed to your entire life. And these beliefs that you're taught, the cultural beliefs, the social beliefs, they influence the way you think, and they influence the thoughts that you have. And the thoughts that you have determine on what you focus on. And what you focus on determines how you experience certain events that happen in your life. And all this sort of forms together to create, for lack of a better word, a mosaic about who you are. The person that you are is built up based on your thoughts and your beliefs and your experiences. And you present yourself to the world based on what you believe you are. And people will accept you based on the way you present yourself to the world. So basically what that means is that if you want to change your life, if you want to change the way the world sees you, if you want to change how you are in relationships, all you have to do is change the beliefs that are limiting you. And your beliefs really all come down to your conditioning. There's three types of conditioning. There's your social conditioning, there's your environmental conditioning, and there's your experiential conditioning. And to run over these really quickly, social conditioning is everything that you've learned from other people on basically how to behave in the world. They're your social norms, they're the things that are considered acceptable. You have an understanding about what's considered unacceptable. They're the things that are socialized, the beliefs that are socialized into you from other people and what they believe, right? So other people's beliefs get kind of programmed into you based on lots of history, lots of tradition, lots of culture, and a lot of family stuff gets socially conditioned into you. The second one is environmental conditioning. What I mean by that, you could look at your family and your culture as being environmental, but that's not what I mean here. I mean, your interaction with your environment also conditions you. Like, children are blank slates. When you were a little kid, you didn't really know any better. So you got a lot of your cues, a lot of your feedback based on what you did, how you behaved, how you acted, and adults' reactions to the way you acted or the way you behaved. So if you did something that an adult thought was cute, you're more likely to continue doing that, behavior. And like I said, your behaviors will reinforce your beliefs. So if you did something that an adult thought was cute, you had the reaction of something that was cute, then you're going to believe that when you do that, it's cute. So you're more likely to continue doing that. On the other hand, if you do something that an adult thought was bad or naughty or whatever you want to call it, you're going to pay attention to their reaction. And if you got a negative reaction, you're going to believe that whatever activity or whatever behavior that was not to be tolerated. So you probably repress that natural tendency to act and behave that way. So that's your environmental conditioning. And the third type is experiential conditioning. Now, what I mean by that is that the outcomes of things we do creates impressions in us. And if something was successful, we're more likely to want to do that again. We're more likely to think that we're necessarily good at that thing. But if we're not successful, we're more likely to realize that we're not so good at it, right? So if you learn to go play basketball and you start playing your first one-on-one game and you lose, you might think, well, I'm not so good at this. And if you play again and you lose, you're going to reinforce the fact that you believe that you're not so good at it. Now, there could be a variety of factors why you didn't win, but you're going to look at that and you're going to think, well, I didn't win and I haven't won so many one-on-one games, so I'm probably not good at it. But if you look at it like as far as winning, the more you win, the more likely it is you're going to condition yourself to believe that you are good at it. And so the experiential conditioning is limiting in the fact that if we don't have the outcome that we want, you're likely to believe that you're not good at it. So that's another form of conditioning. And the conditioning is a primary factor in the formation of your limiting beliefs. So with all of that out of the way, let's tackle how you can learn to identify your limiting beliefs and overcome them so that you can move on, simply move on with whatever it is that you want to do with your life instead of being burdened by these things that are just robbing your brain space and going crazy, that you probably don't even know that you have them, but they're robbing a lot of your personal power away from you. So let's look at how to get rid of this. So step number one is you have to discover what are the negative messages that you heard as a child. Now this is going to take a lot of work because you don't really always know what those messages were, because our memories as a child are formed in completely different ways than we can recall them as an adult. But if you can trace your steps back, you can often remember things that people told you about yourself, that you learn to believe them. And most of the time, what it is that if you do something and you have an adult that tells you things, you're more likely to believe that adult because you, as a child, you don't have a whole lot of experience. And these adult people, these grown-up people, they have a lot more experience. They know a lot more about what they're talking about. So you just learn to go along and believe them. So if somebody says that you're not good at basketball, you're more likely to believe them because, well, they know better, right? They know more. They're smarter. They're more experienced. They're authorities. Maybe they told you that you're an outgoing person, so you believe that you were an outgoing and you acted outgoing. Maybe they told you that you were shy because one day you ran and hid behind your parents' legs when you met them. So you must be shy. So you learn, okay, yeah, I must be shy. So you started acting like you were shy, right? I don't think children are necessarily one thing or another. I think it's those little labels that we're given that make us who we are, that we decide to believe and we attach to our identity is what makes us who we are. And those are the limiting beliefs that limit our potential. Now, I've also got to mention that just because somebody tells you something that might seemingly sound like it's a positive thing doesn't necessarily mean it is a positive thing. Like if somebody tells you that you're smart or somebody tells you that you're good looking, then you're probably going to attribute a lot of your successes to being smart. Now, it's something that you had to go and work hard on, and you put in all the work and effort, and you succeeded at it, you're more likely going to attribute that to being smart. And likewise, if something doesn't go your way, and you weren't able to accomplish what you wanted to, you're going to look at that and you're going to develop an insecurity because, well, I'm so smart, but I wasn't able to do this. So what's the point in even trying anymore? So positive labels can actually be a negative. So that's why I don't like to tell anybody anything about who they are. I don't mind telling people about how well they did something, but I don't like to attribute it to a personality trait or a character trait that they might have, like a talent or a skill. You know, skills are different than talents. Talents are innate, but skills can be developed. So I don't like to tell somebody that they're necessarily talented at something, because a lot of times they're more likely to not put in the effort or the work that's necessary to get the results that they want. Now, I've gotten really long-winded on that, but it's not just about your personality traits. Your limiting beliefs could come in a number of ways, like what are the messages that you've been told about money? What are the messages that you've heard about ambition, being ambitious? See, those things can cut just as well, because if you, like me, have learned that money is evil, then you're less likely to trust rich people. You're going to look at all rich people as evil. Or you're going to look at money as something you just don't go after because you don't want to be evil. So things like that, those are the things that must be uncovered if you want to move forward. And so that brings me to step number 2. Step number 1 was you have to discover the negative messages that you've been told all your life. Those are the labels that have been applied to you. But the second step is learn to identify your thoughts. Learn to catch your inner self-talk and learn what you say to yourself when you talk to yourself. Because the majority of your thoughts are going to come from that conditioning. Your thoughts, you're going to think habitual thoughts. And because they're habitual, you're probably not aware that you're actually thinking these thoughts because they've been so deeply ingrained into your general day-to-day thought process that you have no idea that you're even thinking them. But they come off as tiny little snap judgments about things or events or people that you're not even aware that's happening. And one of the most dangerous thoughts that you can have is telling yourself that you can't change because of something that has happened to you in the past or something that you did in the past. So I don't think that's true. It's the conditioned thinking, it's the habitual thinking that has kept you trapped in that limiting belief that you can't change, but you can. And I'll show you how to do that in step 3. Step number 3 is basically start taking action outside your identity. Now, what I mean by that is that if you believe that you can't do something, the very first thing you need to do is to actually go out and do it. Now, let's say if your limiting belief is that you'll never be a good salesperson. What you have to do is you have to go out there and start making sales. Now, it doesn't have to be like you have to become the #1 salesperson in your organization by the end of the month. No, it starts off small. And it doesn't even have to be anything related to what you do. You just have to go out and start learning how to influence people or to get people to align with your message. And that's really that simple. Just go convince somebody or talk somebody into doing something. And because that's basic salesmanship right there. You're influencing somebody. You're persuading them. And if you can persuade, your best friend to go to a restaurant that you want to eat at that he hasn't really wanted to eat at, if you can do that, you're selling. So learn to start persuading people to do things, but you don't have to go out and start selling the most difficult product your company has to sell. You start small, baby steps. You start small and then you work up to bigger steps. And what you have to realize is that a belief is just a single point on a broader continuum. A belief is not a truth or a fact, so it can be changed. It's malleable. You can direct that belief and start believing what you want that's more or less non-limiting than the current belief that you have. You have to take decisive action in the direction of the belief that you believe is holding you back. And you can start creating experiences around that activity that will help you change your belief. And if that seems to be a little much for you, there's another step, an alternative step, if you will, where you can learn to visualize the results that you want. And this is where you have to uncover the why you have this limiting belief. For example, I am not good with women because women reject me. And women rejected me because this one girl rejected me, or something like that, right? There's always a reason behind every limiting belief. But these becauses, these whys, they're just stories that you tell yourself to rationalize why something didn't work out your way. So if you can learn to visualize an experience that would be more reinforcing to a belief that you like I'm great with women. Or let's say that you want to ride a unicycle on a tightrope at the circus, but you believe you can't do that because you're not coordinated enough. Well, the thing is, you can learn to go out there and become coordinated, right? So the stories that you tell yourself about why you can't do something are just rationalizations about why you can't do it. It's not the real reason. The real reason is because you have a limiting belief around it. That's the only reason. Now, as a little warning, there are a few things that you can't do probably because of legitimate physical limitations, right? You know, if you're 120 pounds and 5'3", you're probably not going to win the world's strongest man competition. At least not today, you know. So there are some strict limitations about what you can't do. But generally speaking, a lot of the limiting beliefs that you have about something that are keeping you from getting that. But if you learn to visualize yourself doing it, visualize yourself going through the process, you can actually create experiences in your head, because your subconscious brain doesn't know really the difference between reality and imagination, right? Just like the same thing when you're dreaming, your brain, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the dream and reality. So you can create experiences simply by visualizing it. But the key is that you have to want to change in order to change it. You have to want to change it enough to do the work. And it is work. It's a lot of work, because you can't just undo however many decades of social conditioning, of environmental conditioning, of experiential conditioning overnight. It's going to take some work. It's going to take you drilling down into your own psyche and learning where you got those negative limiting beliefs. It's going to take work to learn how to identify your thoughts when they happen, because they're so conditioned that you don't even realize that you're having them. You have to get up to speed on that. And then you have to just start taking action towards the thing that you want to do, where you have normally been encountering limiting beliefs that have kept you from doing it. All right? So I'm going to leave you with that. If this video has helped you out, please help me out. Please help the Google algorithm realize that this is a great video by clicking that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you'll be alerted to when I release new videos. And let me know what you think. Leave me a comment down in the comment section below. And I will talk to you in the next video. I'll see you there.